I'm finally live. I hope you all are able to watch it. Let me just confirm if I'm live or if I'm just talking to myself. Okay, perfect. So it looks like I'm live. Great. I'll just turn off all the extra tabs that I have here so that we won't run into network issues. And here we are. First of all, I would like to apologize for missing the last 2 weeks. I absolutely wanted to take continue taking live in the last 2 weeks as well, but my schedule just did not allow for me to take out enough time to prepare for the live. The main problem is not taking the live, the main problem is actually preparing for the live because it takes a great deal of preparation. I have to make the presentation and then I have to prepare the notes. I have to practice the notes and then I have to cover all the topics. First, I have to come up with the topics because I really do not want to miss out on good topics. So it does take some time, and I was not able to spare that time. That's why I was not present last week and last week. But this week, I'm here and I'm not planning to take any more breaks now because it really breaks the flow. Or that's what I feel. So, anyway, let me just, okay, take my chair again. And let's begin with today's live. So, today we are going for our seventh live. Oh my God. So I had planned 10 lives and we are on the seventh one. That means only three remain after this. But then what after that? Actually, after that, I have planned another three similar series. So, my original plan was to have four series of 10 episode each. The first one is writing fundamentals, which we are doing currently. The second one is going to be on revisions. The third one is going to be on publishing. Um, sorry, I forgot about it for a second. But the third one is going to be on publishing, and then the fourth one is going to be on marketing the book. I really wanted to cover all these topics, and this was the best way that I could think of sharing it with you all. And so, after we finish the 10th video of this series, Writing Fundamentals, we are going to be moving on to Revision Fundamentals. With the next series, then we are going to have 10 episodes in that series, and then we are going to move forward with Publishing Fundamentals. Then we are going to have 10 episodes in that, and then we are going to move on to Marketing Fundamentals with 10 videos in that series. So, if you guys have any more ideas for more lives, then do let me know. And hopefully, I'll be covering each and every single aspect of novel writing and publishing and marketing in this. And I really am looking forward to the next series, that is the revision and editing series, because that's my home ground. Professionally speaking, because this is also my home turf, because I am a writer. I was a writer first and then an editor, but I love writing. So this is my home turf, that is my home ground. And then the rest two are also pretty much what I do for a living. So it's going to be great fun. I am just so excited to be doing all this. Anyway, so let's quickly get into today's live. Okay, I think I opened the wrong file. Okay, instead of opening this thing. Okay, just let me stop sharing here for a second and open the correct file. Yes, of course I opened the wrong file. So I opened the image of what I wanted to share instead of. Okay, one second. Just quickly give me 1 second. Perfect. Okay, now we have the correct file here. I'm gonna go live now. I'm sorry, my brain is crumbling a little because I've been working on 8 manuscripts at the same time. So, so my brain is obviously scrambled a little bit, but please bear with me. Okay, so let's begin with today's live. My name is Heena. This is for those who are either new or maybe have kind of forgotten who I am, because that's quite possible. So, I am an award winning author, I'm a developmental editor, I'm also a creative writing coach, and I'm also a publishing consultant. I help writers become authors and I help authors sell more books. I am also the founder of Verbatic Media, my publishing company and editing company, and I'm the founder of the Reading Bud, which is basically a blog book review blog. And I meet some amazing, I have actually worked with over 1,000 international uh, indie authors. And I think only 5 or 6 of them are from India in that list. But rest are all from other countries and continents. And why I like to talk about the Reading Bud so much is because the Reading Bud was where I actually started my career, and it is still going so strong. And I still keep on meeting so many good authors and helping them promote their books that I absolutely love the Reading Bud. Then I'm a cat mom. I love cats and I'm a cat rescuer as well. So wherever there is a kitten in need, I'm always there. Or I can always be contacted so that I can be there. And I'm an animal activist, or I like to be. And I'm a psychology aficionado, and I'm a philosophy junkie. And I also Okay, let me just give me one quick second to put my phone on silent because I totally forgot to do it. I'm so sorry. I'm just so cramped for time. These things are gonna be happening more and more, I think, as we go forward, but I'm not gonna stop doing these lives. Anyway, so this is who I am, and these are my 2 books, Deceived and The Manor. Deceived is a psychological thriller. It's extremely fast-paced suspense. It has multiple point of views, essentially 3 main point of views and one epistolary entry that comes in after every 3 chapters. So I would say it is for POV book. And The Manor, the second one, is a gothic horror novella. It's based on Indian folklore. It has creeping horror. It's extremely lyrical in prose. And it has a supernatural entity or two. And it is heavily symbolic. If you'd like to get a copy of these books, both of them are available on Kindle, on Amazon. But if you want to buy the paperback copy of The Manor, then you can place the order directly with me on WhatsApp, or you can just DM me on any of my socials, and I'll help you figure out how to get the paperback, because I'm selling the paperbacks right now directly because there has been some huge big problem with Amazon for the paperback because of some ISN issue. Anyway, so for paperback, you can place the order with me. For ebooks, you can just directly go to Amazon and buy my books. And coming soon is The Art of Storytelling. This is going to be my first nonfiction book. It is a book on the craft of writing, storytelling, and it has all these amazing things, which I'm not going to go into right now because we really need to get move on for the life. So let's move on. It has a lot of good things, and whatever I'm talking about in the life is literally just 5 to 10% of what's in the book. And in the book, I also give a lot of exercises, and I'm actually thinking of releasing a companion workbook of the art of storytelling. So if you're really serious about writing, then you must get this book. You can pre order the book right now on Amazon. I'll share the links in the comment below. or you can place the order directly with me. If you do it directly with me through my website or just by DMing me, then you'll get the chance to get a physical copy of the book for free. So don't miss out on that chance. Anyway, so let's begin with today's live. Uh, I would like to welcome you all to Writing Fundamentals. This is live number 7, and today we are diving into one of the most exciting and honestly one of the most misunderstood parts of writing. That is, cue the drum bells. Cue the drums. Okay. Okay. You know what? I have actually started scrambling words. Anyway, I deal with words, so that's to be expected. Anyway, so cue the drums, and we are going to be talking about dialogue. So, uh, a quick confession before we begin. This is the session I've received the most DMs about so far. I have no idea why. I was expecting that characterization was going to be one of the most popular lives in the series, but no, as it turns out, it is the dialogue. So, anyway, that's why I wanted to talk about dialogue in depth. And so today's session is going to be a little bit longer than the earlier ones. I hope that's okay. My inbox has been full of messages like, my dialogue feels flat, my dialogues don't sound natural, my characters all sound the same. I don't know when my dialogue is too much or too little. Why does my dialogue look fine but feel off? Now, that last one has been the complaint of most of my writers, the clients who come to me for editing, that they have worked on the dialogue, but it feels off. And this is where I usually come in and help them. But this is what I'm going to help you today with too. If you've ever felt that way, trust me, you are not alone. Dialogue is tricky because it looks easy. After all, we all talk every day, right? But writing dialogue that actually works, that feels natural, reveals character, builds tension, carries subtext, and moves the story forward is a completely different skill. And that's exactly what today is all about. By the end of this session, I want you to stop thinking of dialogue as people talking and start seeing it as action, strategy, and storytelling tool. Dialogue is where your characters come alive, where relationships are tested and conflict is sharpened. And very often it's where readers fall in love with your story. We'll look at what dialogue really is, why it matters, how to write it well, how to format it professionally, and we'll even do a live example or 7 live examples where I'll show you how to take a weak dialogue and transform it by adding subtext, tightening it, sharpening the voice, and creating real tension. So, whether you're writing a novel, a short story, a memoir, autobiography, fan fiction, or just trying to make your characters sound more natural, this session is for you. Grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's talk about writing great dialogue. Let me just grab my bottle and have a sip of water, please. Awesome. So let's begin. Before we even begin talking about how to write good dialogue, I want us to slow us down for a moment and really reframe what dialogue actually is in creative writing. Because most writing problems with dialogue don't come from weak sentences, they actually come from wrong assumptions. Most writers approach dialogue thinking, okay, now my characters are talking. And that's where the trouble begins. Dialogue in storytelling is not conversation. It is not people casually exchanging words. It is not how we speak in real life. Dialogue is one of the most strategic tools you have as a storyteller. And once you start seeing dialogue this way, everything changes. So, first, let's see what dialogue really is. Let's start with what dialogue really is at its core. A dialogue is a revelation. Every time a character opens their mouth, something must be revealed. Not everything, not always something loud or very dramatic, but something new must surface. That something could be what the character wants, what they fear, what they're hiding, how they feel about another character, where the power lies in the relationship or the power dynamics, and what the emotional temperature of the scene is. Dialogue is like a window, and every line opens that window just a little bit wider. Let me show you what I mean. Listen to this dialogue. Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. This tells us nothing. It's polite, but it's empty. Now, look at this dialogue. Are you okay? I will be once you stop pretending nothing happened. So I used trailing there when I said. Anyway, we'll be talking about trailing a little bit later on. Suddenly, in the scene, just with two dialogues, we know something did happen. There is unresolved conflict, there is emotional tension, and there is probably a history there somewhere. That single line, I will be, once you stop pretending nothing happened, carries so much emotional weight. So when you write dialogue, always ask yourself, what does this line reveal that the reader didn't know before? If the answer is nothing, that line is a filler, cut it out. Then, B. A dialogue is compressed thought. This is one of the most important ideas I want you to take away today. Real people do not speak efficiently. We ramble, we circle back, we hesitate, we repeat ourselves, as you might notice in the life itself. Sorry. If you wrote dialogue exactly how people talk in real life, your book would literally be unreadable. But, and this is important, good dialogue must still feel real. So, what do? We compress. Dialogue is thought that has been tightened, distilled, sharpened, and edited. It's not raw speech, it's a designed speech. Let's compare. In real life, we might say, I mean, I was just thinking that maybe we could talk later, if that's okay. But in a story, we are going to say, we need to talk later. It both the dialogues have the same meaning, but the second version respects the reader's time and attention. Two very important things. Now, see, dialogue is action, not decoration. This is where many writers go wrong. They treat dialogue as a break between plot points. But that's not right because dialogue is a plot point itself. When your characters speak, they are doing something confronting, accusing, persuading, confessing, defending, manipulating, withdrawing, or provoking. Dialogue creates movement. Consider this line: I'm leaving tonight. This sentence changes everything. The story before it is not the same story after it. If you removed that line, the plot would stall. That's how dialogue should function. After every dialogue exchange, ask yourself, what has shifted? What is different now? If nothing has changed, emotionally, narratively, or relationally, the dialogue is unnecessary. D. Dialogue is strategy. People rarely say exactly what they mean. Characters lie, they avoid, they test, they deflect, and they speak in half truths. And that's where great dialogue lives. Look at this exchange. Did you tell her? What makes you think I would? That second line is not an answer, it's a move. Dialogue is often a chess game. Every line is a move toward a goal. Characters speak not to communicate, but to control outcomes. Now, let us look at what dialogue is not. And trust me, this will save you years of frustration. Now, let's talk about what dialogue is not because this is where most beginner and intermediate writers stumble. A. Dialogue is not everyday conversation. A lot of people think otherwise, but it is not. Real conversations are often boring to read because they are full of greetings, small talk, weather comments, politeness, repetition. Who wants to listen to all that? Who wants to read about all that? A novel has no room for that unless it serves a purpose. In real life, we might say, hi, hey, how was your day? Okay, yours? This is real, but it's not your story. In a story, we say, you didn't come home last night. I told you I wouldn't. We enter where tension begins. As writers, we skip the polite parts and start where something matters. B. A dialogue is not an information dump. If your characters are explaining things they already know, readers will feel the author's hand immediately. And I cannot tell you how many times I see this in action in manuscripts that I receive for editing. This is one of the fastest way to break immersion or what I call as the willing suspension of disbelief. Here's a bad dialogue. As you know, our mother died last year and that's why we are struggling. No one talks like that. Here's the better dialogue. You vanished after Ma died. Don't act surprised that everything collapsed. We are giving the same information to the reader here, but now it's emotional, personal, and feels real. See, dialogue is not a lecture. Your characters are not teachers, they are not textbooks, they are definitely not TED speakers. If your dialogue starts explaining systems, history, or philosophy too neatly, it stops sounding like a person and starts sounding like you. Or worse, ChatGPT. Bad dialogue. Here's the example. Let me explain the political structure of this kingdom. This can be told in a better way as this. They make rules we bleed for and call it order. Emotion first, explanation later. D. Dialogue is not a transcript of real speech. You are not recording conversations, you are crafting scenes. You don't need every hello, every goodbye, every every repeated thought, unless those things create tension or meaning. So, follow this rule. Start late, end early in conversation in your novel. Treat it as a golden rule. E. Dialogue is not filler. This is harsh but very necessary. Dialogue that exists only to fill pages or complete word counts or connect some scenes or pass the time has no place in your story. Every line in a novel must earn its place. Ask this question constantly to yourself. If I cut this line, does the scene lose anything? If the answer is no, cut it out. I would like to tell you about the dialogue contract here. It is one of the most important ideas today. It's a very small idea, but it's a very important one. When readers see quotation marks, they lean in and they expect insight, emotion, tension, and or revelation. This is what I like to think as the dialogue contract. It's basically a pact between the writer and the reader that promises, from the writer's end, you will learn something essential from every spoken line or word. Break this contract, and readers will skim over your dialogues. Keep it, and they will hang on to every single word. Now, let's look at this example. Let me just see if I have this example. I do. Okay, let's have a look at this example. In version 1, we have, are you angry? Yes. Why? Because you lied. And in version 2, we have, are you angry? Do you really need to ask? I need you to say it. Then start listening better. In version 1, it is technically fine, but it is emotionally dead. But version 2, we have the same situation, but we also have tension, subtext, power shift, and voice. This is the difference between dialogue that exists and dialogue that works. So now that we've completely reset our understanding of what dialogue really is and what it absolutely is not, the next question that you might ask yourself is, why does dialogue matter so much? Why does it have such control over a scene that you're writing? So let's talk about that next. Why dialogue matters? Now that we've completely reframed what dialogue is and what it isn't, the next important question is why dialogue matters so much. Why do readers remember certain lines of dialogue years after they forget entire plots? Why do some scenes feel alive the moment characters start speaking, even if nothing big is happening? And why do stories collapse emotionally when dialogue is weak? I'm so sorry, I'm gonna lower my voice a little because my throat is giving me a bit of trouble. The answer is simple but complex at the same time. Dialogue is where your story becomes real. Let's break this down. Dialogue controls all these 9 elements in your novel, and that is why it matters. Let's look at them one by one. Dialogue controls pace more than anything else in your story. One of the most immediate effects dialogue has on your story is the pace. The moment dialogue appears on the page, the reading experience changes. The paragraphs shorten, the white spaces increases, the reader's eyes move faster. This is why dialogue heavy scenes feel quicker even when they are emotionally heavier. Let me show you the difference. Here's a narration heavy version. He hesitated, unsure whether she had noticed the sound coming from the basement. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. This sentence is something that 99% of my clients would write. And who are my clients? You guys, the writers. So, this sentence is something that 99% of writers would write. But you know what? Instead of having this, you can just have two very short dialogues, like even less than half a sentence of dialogues, just two dialogues. And it is going to land the scene way better. Want to see how? Did you hear that? She froze. Hear what? That's it. Here we have the same moment, but completely different energies. Dialogue pulls the reader into real time instantly. It feels extremely immediate, urgent, present. That's why we need to lean more into dialogue. But if I'm being honest, I've generally notice that writers shy away from dialogue because they feel more comfortable describing and writing about things than being able to craft realistic dialogue. But trust me, if you nail this one tool, dialogue writing, your story is going to be so much better, so much better. Then, just the way dialogue can fasten the pace, they can also slow down time in the novel intentionally very well. Now, here's the part where many writers miss. Dialogue doesn't only speed things up, it can also slow the story down in a way that deepens the emotion. When characters pause, hesitate, or struggle to say something important, time stretches. For example, why didn't you tell me? There's a trailing because I didn't know how to survive you knowing. That pause, that hesitation, the one that I implied at with trailing, forces the reader to sit with the emotion. Dialogue controls not just how fast events happen, but how strongly we feel them. Now, dialogue reveals character faster than any description. You can describe a character for 3 paragraphs, or you can let them speak for 3 lines. Choice is yours. Dialogue is the fastest, most efficient way to reveal character because how someone speaks tells us who they are. Consider this. Consider the vocabulary, sentence length, tone, confidence, defensiveness, humor, and restraint. All of this lives in dialogue and dialogue alone. For example, I don't think that's a wise decision versus that's a bad idea. Both the dialogue have same meaning, but they show us that they come from two very different people. Because the first dialogue, I don't think that's a wise decision, sounds cautious, measured, and possibly educated. The second speaker, who says that's a bad idea, sounds blunt, direct, and possibly impatient. Dialogue gives us personality, worldview, emotional state, and social position without the author needing to explain anything. That's why all the big and great and favorite authors mostly rely on dialogue to reveal their characters. What characters avoid saying is even more revealing. Often, what characters don't say matters more than what they do. For example, did you love him? You should go, it's late. That evasion tells us there's pain, there's fear, there's unresolved emotion. Dialogue is a dance of revelation and concealment. Then, third, dialogue builds relationships in real time. Relationships do not live in backstory, they live in interaction. Dialogue shows us closeness, resentment, power, affection, jealousy, and history. Watch how quickly dialogue establishes dynamics. Example: sit, I'd rather stand. That wasn't a suggestion. 3 lines, power dynamics established. Dialogue shows intimacy and distance as well. The way characters address each other tells us how close they are. Uh, you may use these things to show the intimacy level of the people involved in the conversation: first names, nicknames, formal titles, sarcasm, silence. For example, Mrs. Rao, call me, oh, call me Aruna. I'm sorry, call me Aruna. Aruna. That shift alone signals showing intimacy. Dialogue tracks the evolution of relationships moment by moment. Fourth, dialogue is where subtext is. Subtext is the emotional meaning beneath the words, what is not said, and dialogue is its natural home. People rarely say exactly what they feel. They imply, they dodge, they disguise. On the nose, example, I'm jealous of him. But with subtext, our dialogue is going to sound like something like this. He seems to be around you a lot these days. One tells, the other invites the reader to interpret. And trust me, readers love doing that. Silence is also dialogue. Silence, pauses, and avoidance speak volumes if done right. For example, are you coming back? He didn't answer. That non answer is the answer. Dialogue isn't just speech, it's the space between words. Fifth, dialogue keeps readers engaged. Readers lean in when characters speak. Why? Because dialogue promises conflict, revelation, tension, and emotional payoff. When done well, dialogue becomes unskippable. This is why readers often highlight dialogue lines and remember them years later. Dialogue sits in the memory. Sixth, dialogue creates momentum inside scenes. Even when a scene is static, two people sitting in a room, dialogue creates movement. Each line pushes, resists, challenges, and reveals. This back and forth creates momentum. Scenes feel alive because dialogue keeps things in motion. Seventh, dialogue is the reader's entry point. Dialogue makes readers feel like insiders. They are not being told a story, they are overhearing it. This creates intimacy. When dialogue works, the reader forgets they are reading, and that's the real magic. So now that we understand why dialogue matters, how it controls the pace, reveals character, builds relationships, carries subtext, and delivers emotional engagement, uh, carries the momentum of the scene, and provides an entry point to the reader. The next step is learning what separates good dialogue from great dialogue. Let's talk about the qualities that make dialogue great or amazing. Let me just take 1 second break because I really need to have my syrup because my throat is drying up like hell. Just 1 minute. Done. Now, qualities of good dialogue. Now that we understand why dialogue matters so deeply, the next natural question is this: what actually makes dialogue good? I'm sorry, I might sound a little weird or peppy, but I'm actually trying to take some accent classes on top of also practicing voice acting. acting, right? So I'm at a very early stages of doing that, but I might sound weird because I'm trying to see, because I'm trying to get the little bit concepts of voice acting that I've learned into my voice. So again, please ignore. But I'm actually trying to prepare myself for narrating an audiobook, my own audiobook, because audiobook narrators are extensively expensive and most of them are actually not worth it at all. So I've decided to do it by myself. Anyway, so fun aside, but jokes aside, but that's why my voice might sound weird or high pitched at times. Anyway, so what actually makes dialogue good? Not grammatically correct, not realistic, not clever, but good. In the sense that readers lean forward, feel something shift, and stay emotionally engaged with your dialogue. Good dialogue is not accidental, it is built on a few core qualities that, once you understand them, will completely change the way you write conversations. Let's walk through these qualities one by one. So, these are the 8 qualities. I actually hate having slides, where you just get a dump of all the 8 points together. I like to do it like one by one by one by one. But you know what? Because I'm working in split screen, it actually gets very difficult to be doing that because I like doing it when I'm doing it on Canva. But it kind of gets very difficult doing it here in the lives. It can actually be done pretty easily when I'm doing it on Zoom. So I think next time maybe I'll do them directly on Zoom, but I love doing lives. I don't know what to do. Anyway, if you guys know anything about this issue, then do let me know because I am not very tech savvy. Anyway, so these are the 8 qualities that good dialogue should have. The first is good dialogue is purposeful. This is the most important quality of all. Every single line of dialogue must have a reason to exist. Characters do not speak in story because they feel like it. They speak because they want something. That want might be information, reassurance, control, forgiveness, dominance, escape, validation, or distance. When dialogue lacks purpose, it immediately feels flat. Let me show you. Purposeless dialogue will sound something like this. How are you? I'm okay. That's good. Nothing changes. There's no tension and there's no movement. Now, listen to this. How are you? Better than yesterday. That bad. You left. You left. Okay, like that. Okay. Same opening question, but completely different impact. Something is at stake now. As a writer, constantly ask yourself, what does this character want from this conversation? And although it may seem like a lot of work to be doing after every single piece of dialogue or conversation on the page, trust me, if you'll do this, you won't have to wonder later on what is going wrong with the dialogue. When two characters want different things, dialogue becomes extremely powerful. Then, second, good dialogue is real, but not realistic. This distinction is very crucial, and it's where many writers get confused. Real speech is very messy, but storytelling or story dialogue must feel real without feeling messy. In real life, people ramble, repeat themselves, trail off constantly, and fill silences with noise. On the page, this becomes exhausting. So, good dialogue is curated reality. Too realistic. Uh, I guess, like, maybe we should talk about it. I don't know. See, this is how we talk. But a good dialogue will be. we need to talk. The second line respects the reader's time and intelligence. Again, the two most important things we need to be constantly keeping in mind. The goal is not to copy real speech. The goal is to create the illusion of real speech. Please make a note of this. Third, good dialogue is clear. Clarity does not mean simplicity. It means the reader always knows who is speaking, what they mean, even when they're lying, what the emotional tone is, and what the power dynamics are. Confusing dialogue pulls readers out of the story, and we cannot have that. Good dialogue will guide them gently. Now, here's an example of an unclear dialogue. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. That's not what I meant. Without context or grounding, this dialogue feels very floaty. But here's a clear dialogue. Just one second. I didn't say that. She folded her arms. Yes, you did. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Here, the reader understands tone, emotion, and conflict. Clarity does not mean explaining everything, it means anchoring the reader, not letting the reader feel like they're floating into space. Good dialogue is engaging. Good dialogue has energy. It pulls the reader forward, it creates curiosity, and it makes us want to hear the next line. Engagement comes from tension, contrast, rhythm, surprise, and emotional stakes. Most of these things we've already studied in the previous lives. Here's an example of a flat dialogue. I think we should leave. Okay. And here's an engaging dialogue. I think we should leave. Before or after you tell me why you're shaking. Now the reader is alert. Something is happening beneath the surface. Fifth, good dialogue has subtext. Subtext is what makes dialogue feel intelligent, layered, and emotionally rich. Subtext is everything the character means but does not say. Most people do not speak honestly, especially when emotions are involved. Here's an example of on the nose dialogue. I'm scared you'll abandon me. But with subtext, how can we write this dialogue? You always leave early. One explains, the other invites interpretation. Subtext allows readers to participate in the story, and readers love that. Again, silence is a part of subtext. Sometimes the most powerful dialogue is no dialogue at all. For example, did you ever love me? No reply. And then the same character says, you should get some sleep. That avoidance speaks volumes. Then, sixth is good dialogue is true to character voice. Every character must sound like themselves, not like the author. As I have said a million and a million and a million times to my clients, voice comes from background, education, culture, emotional habits, worldview, and confidence level. If all characters speak the same way, the story will flatten. For example, this is unacceptable. Who said it? Now compare this to a strict parent. This is unacceptable. A sarcastic friend. Yeah, this is great, really. A nervous intern. I don't think this is okay. See, same situation but different voices. Dialogue is one of the strongest tools for character differentiation. Seventh, good dialogue creates or heightens conflict. Dialogue without conflict is rarely interesting. Conflict doesn't always mean shouting. It can be disagreement, tension, withheld information, emotional distance, or opposing goals. Low conflict dialogue will sound like, I don't think this is a good idea. Okay. High conflict dialogue will sound like, I don't think this is a good idea. You never do. Now there's history, there's friction. Eighth, good dialogue has rhythm. Dialogue is musical. It has beats, pauses, interruptions, silence, and flow. Read dialogue aloud and you'll hear it. There's an awkward rhythm in this dialogue. I wanted to talk to you about the situation that happened yesterday evening. With better rhythm, this dialogue can be rewritten as about last night. We need to talk. This is sharper, shorter, clearer, and cleaner. Rhythm keeps dialogue alive. Ninth. Oh, I forgot to change the page. Okay. Ninth. Good dialogue feels alive in that moment. Great dialogue feels like it's happening now. Not narrated, not summarized, or explained. When dialogue works, readers forget that they are reading, they listen. And 10th, good dialogue changes something. This is the final test. After a dialogue exchange, has the emotional temperature changed? Has information been revealed? Has a relationship shifted? Has conflict escalated or softened? If nothing has changed, the dialogue doesn't belong. You need to either cut it out or you need to revise it. Dialogue must leave a mark, always. Just a second. So now that we understand the qualities that make dialogue strong, purpose, clarity, voice, subtext, rhythm, and conflict, the next step is learning how to actually write dialogue that consistently achieve this. Let's move into the craft. Sorry. How to write great dialogue. So from good, now we are coming to great. Now that we've talked about what dialogue is, why it matters, and what makes dialogue good, it's time to get into the real craft question. How do we actually write great dialogue on the page? This is where most writers feel stuck. They understand the theory, but when they sit down to write, the dialogue still feels flat, stiff, or unreal or artificial. So I want you to think of this section as a toolkit. Not rules, but tools. That rhymed. Okay. You won't use all of them all the time, but knowing they exist gives you control. And control is something that you need while writing dialogue. Okay. First, start with character, not words. The biggest mistake writers make is starting with what the character should say. Great dialogue doesn't start with words, it starts with character psychology. Before a character speaks, ask yourself, what do they want right now? What are they afraid of? What do they already know? And what are they trying to hide? What outcome are they aiming for? Dialogue is a means to an end. For example, here's a weak approach to dialogue. What would this character say in this situation? A stronger approach would be, what does this character want from this moment and how would they try to get it? How would they try to get it? Not you, the author or the narrator. The character would try to get it. Two characters can want opposite things, different things in the same conversation. And that's where dialogue becomes very powerful, as we've already seen. Second, give every character a clear goal in the scene. Now, this ties back to what we have learned in the anatomy of a scene. There has to be something that a character wants in a scene. Either they are acting or reacting to something. Dialogue becomes dull when characters talk without direction. Every dialogue scene works best when character A wants X, character B wants Y. X and Y cannot coexist easily. That tension shapes every single line of dialogue. For example, she wants honesty, he wants to avoid the truth. Now look at the dialogue. Just tell me. It's not that simple. It never is for you. Even without exposition, we feel the clash of goals. Dialogue is strongest when characters are pushing against each other, not agreeing to each other comfortably. Third, let characters speak in their own voice. Voice is not the accent, voice is basically the personality expressed through language. Voice comes from sentence length, vocabulary, rhythm, emotional habits, confidence, or insecurity, and worldview. Example, same situation but with different voices, okay? Situation, someone is late. An anxious character will say, I was worried something happened to you. A sarcastic character will say, nice of you to show up. A controlling character will say, you were supposed to be here at 6. Same situation, but different inner worlds of the character who are speaking the dialogue. If you remove the dialogue tags, you would still be able to tell who is speaking. Imagine all these three people standing at the same place, basically talking to the fourth same person. You will still be able to tell which one is which. That is great dialogue. Fourth, write the first draft badly and then sharpen it. This is very crucial, especially for dialogue. Your first draft dialogue is allowed to be on the nose, explanatory, clumsy, too long. You know why? Because dialogue improves in revision. A very effective technique is first, write the dialogue as plainly as possible. Don't try to be smart about it. Just write it in the most simplest of terms. Just try to get it out there. Then, second, then you go back and ask yourself, can I cut this line? Can I shorten it? Can I imply instead of explain? Can I move emotion into subtext? For example, maybe in the first draft you write, I'm angry because you betrayed my trust. But in the revised draft, when you use a little bit of your mind and you use a little bit of the tools that I'm giving you here, you might end up with, you really thought I wouldn't find out. Same emotion, sharper delivery. Fifth, use subtext deliberately. Subtext is not accidental, it is a choice. Ask yourself, what is the character feeling? Why won't they say it directly? How would that emotion leak out instead? For example, instead of, I miss you, you can try and write, your side of the bed still cold. The second line carries longing without naming it. Subtext invites the reader to participate, and that creates engagement. Then, sixth, the numbers are going to be repeated because I was using Canva, and in Canva, the bullet points always start with 1, 2 on every page. You can't actually have a running list unless you can, and someone knows about it, so please do let me know about it. Sixth, balance dialogue with action beats. Dialogue should never float in empty space. Action beats are uh, ground the conversation, sorry, action beats ground the conversation, show emotion, physically control pacing, and add subtext. For example, here's a flat dialogue. I don't trust you. And here's a grounded dialogue. I don't trust you. She slid her phone face down on the table. That small action adds tension and implication. Dialogue plus movement feels alive. Seventh, control pacing through line length. Dialogue rhythm is a powerful pacing tool. Short lines is equal to tension and urgency. Longer lines will equate to reflection and emotion. Interruptions will reflect conflict, and silences will equate to weight. Fast dialogue example. Did you do it? Yes. When? Tonight. Slow dialogue example would be I thought I could live with it. He paused. Turns out I can't. Use rhythm intentionally. Eighth, let characters interrupt each other. Perfect polite dialogue feels fake. Real emotion interrupts. Example, I just wanted to explain. No, you wanted to justify it. Interruptions heighten conflict, speed pacing, feel realistic, and show power dynamics. Who interrupts whom tells us who holds control. Trust the reader. Don't over explain. If your dialogue explains everything, it kills the tension. Readers are smart, they enjoy figuring things out. Won't you? Here's an example of an over explained dialogue. I'm upset because you didn't support me. And here's an example where the writer has trusted the reader. Funny how you were so vocal until it mattered. The second line trusts the reader to connect the dots. And 10th, cut more than you think you should. One of the best dialogue writing skills is knowing what to remove. After writing a scene, try this. Remove the first two lines, remove the last two lines, and read again. Often the scene becomes stronger. Dialogue should start late and end early, as I've already told you. So, now that we know how to write great dialogue from a craft perspective, character, goals, voice, subtext, pacing, and revision, the next step is making sure our dialogue looks as good on the page as it sounds in our head. Let's talk mechanics and formatting. Now, this is the section most writers want to skip when they are working on their drafts, and the section editors care about the most. Because here's the thing, you can write emotionally powerful dialogue, but if it is formatted poorly, it immediately looks immature. Formatting is not about being pedantic, it's about clarity, professionalism, and reader comfort. Think of formatting as good manners on the page. It makes your writing easy to read. That was Kaddu. Easy to read, easy to follow, and easy to trust. So let's go step by step. First, the golden rule is one speaker, one paragraph. This is non negotiable. Every time a new character speaks, you start a new paragraph. Why? Because readers track dialogue visually before they process it mentally. Paragraph breaks signal speaker changes instantly. So, the correct formatting. So, here, first I've given you the incorrect formatting. Where were you? I told you not to wait. That's not what I asked. You can't differentiate the reader or the speaker here. But in the correctly formatted dialogue, where were you? I told you not to wait. That's not what I asked. The speaker changes with every single line. This is clean, clear, and effortless. This forces the reader to work, and readers hate unnecessary work, the incorrect one. If you break this rule, editors will flag it immediately, and then you'll have to change it. Sorry. Second, punctuation inside dialogue and why it matters. Punctuation is the dialogue, in the dialogue follows very specific conventions, and these conventions are internationally recognized and they exist for readability, not tradition. Commas and periods stay inside quotation marks. Period. Remember this. Okay, now look at the incorrect one. I can't do this, she said. Look here, the comma is outside. This is not acceptable. You have to put the comma inside. I can't do this, she said. Or simply just don't add a tag. This is known as the dialogue tag. So don't add the tag here if you want to have a full stop. But even the full stop is going to come inside the apostrophe. The quotation mark, apostrophe, the quotation marks. Third, dialogue tags versus action beats. Now, let us clear this, okay? Because this confuses a lot of writers. A dialogue tag identifies the speaker with he said, she said. And an action beat describes what the character does. They are not the same thing. Correct use of dialogue tag will be, look at the correct one. First, let's look at the incorrect one. I'm leaving. She grabbed her keys. You see how we have a comma after I'm leaving, which means the dialogue is still on. She grabbed her keys. This is a beat. This is not a tag, and it cannot therefore come with the dialogue. Look at the corrected one. I'm leaving, she said. Either you use this with the correct use of tag, or you do this, or you write it like this if you do not want to use a tag and instead just have a beat. I'm leaving, full stop, close the quotation mark, finish the dialogue here, and then continue with she grabbed her keys. This is the correct use of dialogue and action beat. Action beats must stand as separate sentences. This single distinction instantly elevates your writing without you even knowing about it. The next is capitalization rules. This is small but very important because imagine having to deal with an entire manuscript where every time there has to be a capitalization, the author has not capitalized it. It is visually torturous to read such a book. When dialogue ends with a tag, the tag starts lowercase. Look here. Are you serious? Here, S is going to be small, not capital. If the tag comes first, it will be capital, she asked. And the starting of the dialogue is also going to be in capital unless it's a running dialogue. Once you get this wrong, it repeats everywhere. So it's worth mastering this early and keeping it at the back of your mind whenever you're working on dialogue. Sorry. Then fifth. Oh, okay. We don't have fifth because fifth doesn't need a representation. So I'm just going to speak about it. Long speeches, how to format them properly. Basically, wherever you have multiple paragraphs. Sometimes a character needs to speak for more than one paragraph. When that happens, you open quotation marks at the start of each paragraph. You close quotation marks only at the very end. For example, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to give you the example here. Example, I never meant for this to happen. Full stop. I truly believed things would work out. Full stop. We change the paragraph, we open the quotation marks, but we do not close them. But I was wrong. Full stop. Now we end the quotation mark because we haven't ended the quotation marks earlier in the second sentence. This tells us the reader, this tells the reader that the same person is still speaking. Very few writers know this rule. Editors absolutely know this rule. All the editors do. Sixth, interruptions versus hesitations. If I had a penny for every single time my author has used M dashes for trailing, I would be such an amazingly rich person. So let's clear this once and for all. M dashes are used for interruptions, abrupt shocks, and sudden shocks and abrupt stops. I told you I didn't stop. There you use an M dash. It is for when you want the dialogue to feel sharp and aggressive or immediate and urgent. Where do we use ellipses? Ellipses are used for hesitation, trailing off, emotional uncertainty. I thought you were gone. So, ellipses are used when you want to make the dialogue sound soft, vulnerable, and uncertain. Mixing these up changes the emotional tone of the scene. It's a very small thing, but it's very important. Okay, Kaddu is sitting right next to me. Needs a little rubby dubby. Okay, then we come to the seventh point, formatting internal thoughts alongside dialogue. Internal thoughts are not dialogue and should never be placed in quotation marks. These are two acceptable professional approaches. Option one is italicize thoughts. I'm fine, she said. And in italics, we give I'm absolutely not fine. Option two is DPOV, so no italics needed. You just write it like it is. I'm fine, she said. But do not use quotation marks. She was lying even to herself. Why you don't need an any kind of italicization is because it is DPOV, as we have seen in POV and voice. Both are correct. Choose one and stay consistent with it throughout the novel. Do not try to change your approaches mid novel, mid manuscript. Pick one and use that. Be consistent in your use. Then we have eighth, dialogue interrupted by action. These are also called mid sentence beats. Sometimes a character acts while speaking, many times actually. In that case, the action is treated as an interruption inside the scene, inside the sentence. I can't, she rubbed her temples, do this anymore. Notice commas on both ends. See here, one second. See here, comma, and you have here as well. Sentence continues after the beat with small case only because it's in continuation. As I said, if it's a running sentence, if it's a running dialogue, then it is not going to be capitalized. This creates a natural rhythm and realism. Then we have point number 9, how many names is too many? Writers often overuse names because they think it sounds dramatic. In reality, people rarely use names unless they want to get attention, they want to express emotions, or they want to soften or intensify a moment. A natural dialogue would feel like, look at me, don't do this. An intentional dialogue would feel would sound like, look at me, Arav, and don't do this, Ma. See? Use names like seasoning sparingly with intention. Then we have 10th, avoid explaining emotion with adverb. I hate you, she said angrily. This is weak because it tells instead of showing. What will be better is this. I hate you. She slammed the door. Action replaces adverbs. Always. Now, let's move on to the next section, that is common dialogue mistakes. I wanted to take the live example, but I'm going to be taking it after this section so that we finish off the entire thing and then we do the live examples. Common dialogue mistakes. So now that we understand how dialogue should look on the page, clean, readable, professional, the next thing we need to talk about is the mistakes. Now, this is the section where most writers have a lot of oh shit moments. Because the dialogue mistakes are rarely obvious when we are writing. They feel fine in our heads and look acceptable on the page. But when a reader or an editor encounters them, something feels wrong. Let's go through the most common dialogue mistakes, not to shame anyone, but to sharpen your instincts. First, okay, let me just change the slide. First, the talking heads syndrome. This happens when dialogue exists without physical grounding. Characters speak, but we don't know where they are, what they are doing, how they are reacting physically. It feels like voices in a void. For example, this is an example of the weak dialogue. Did you tell her? No. Are you sure? Yes. We have no atmosphere, no emotion, and no context. We can improve it to sound something like this. Did you tell her? He stared at the sink, watching the water overflow. No. Are you sure? His jaw tightened. Yes. Same words, but now the scene has weight. Then we have decorative dialogue tags, aka trying too hard. New writers often believe varied tags make dialogue very interesting. They don't, they only distract. Tags like she exclaimed, or he exclaimed, or retorted, or opined, or vocalized, or interjected. They just pull attention away from the actual dialogue. Here's an example of a weak dialogue. I can't believe you did that. She exclaimed angrily. Here's how a stronger dialogue would sound like. I can't believe you did that. She folded her arms. Let the words and actions carry emotion. Said is invisible, and that's why it works. That's why we use more of it. I mostly, for the 80%, I always replace dialogue tags with said, because said is the safest bet. It doesn't distract, it only grounds the reader. Then we have on the nose dialogue, also known as saying exactly what you mean. This is one of the biggest killers of emotional depth. People rarely articulate their feelings so cleanly, especially in moments of conflict. Here's an example of on the nose dialogue. I feel hurt because you ignored me. And here's an example of a layered dialogue. You didn't even notice I was gone. The second line does more work with fewer words. Subtext is always better than explanation. Then, fourth, we have info dump dialogue. That is talking for the reader, not each other. If characters say things only so the reader can understand the story, the illusion or the suspension of disbelief breaks. Here's an example of a bad dialogue. As you know, since the war ended 5 years ago, the city has been under military control. You won't believe it, people actually write like this. Anyway, this is not how it is to be done. See, as I said, in the first draft, that's okay. You can always revise. But when you revise, it should sound something like this. 5 years since the war ended, and we are still asking permission to breathe. See? So you've told everything you wanted to tell in dialogue one, but in a much better way. Same information, same emotion, no awkward exposition. Then, fifth, everyone sounds the same. If you remove dialogue tags and can't tell who's speaking, That's a very big problem. This usually happens when sentence structure is identical, vocabulary is similar, and emotional tone doesn't vary. For example, here's how a flat dialogue would sound like. I don't think this is wise. I also don't think this is wise. Here's the improved example. This is a bad idea. It's the only one we've got. Now the voices clash. Sixth, too much small talk. Real life includes pleasantries. Fiction or story usually doesn't need them. For example, a weak dialogue would be, hi, how was your day? Here's a better example. You didn't call me back. Start where the tension begins. Don't get lost in pleasantries in dialogue, please. Seventh, over explaining with adverbs. I'm leaving, she said angrily. This tells the reader how to feel instead of letting them experience it. Here's a better example. I'm leaving, she shoved the chair back. Action does the emotional work here. Eighth, repetition without purpose. Characters repeating the same point drains the reader's energy. Here's an example of a weak dialogue. I don't understand. I told you already. I still don't understand. Here's a better dialogue. I told you already. Then explain it better. See? Trim redundancy unless it adds tension or realism intentionally. Then, ninth, we have overlong emotional monologues. People rarely express intense emotion in perfect paragraphs. It is quite literally impossible for people to be doing that. So don't do it in your story. Strong emotion often comes out in fragments. Here's an example of a weak dialogue. I'm deeply hurt and disappointed because of everything you did and how it affected me emotionally. No one's going to say that. Here's the better example. I tried, she swallowed. I really tried. Less polish, more truth. Then, 10th, author intrusion through dialogue. This happens when the author's voice replaces the character's voice. Dialogue starts sounding like a moral lesson or an essay or a philosophical argument. For example, this society is deeply flawed and promotes systemic inequality. You don't write dialogues like that. Instead, you can write something like this. They built the rules, so we'd never win. See, this sounds something a character would say, not the author. Let characters speak from their experiences, not theory. 11th, dialogue that does nothing. The hardest, the harshest truth, some dialogue is completely unnecessary. If it doesn't reveal, doesn't shift, doesn't escalate, or doesn't deepen, it should be cut. Ask after every dialogue exchange, what changed because of this? If the answer is nothing, the dialogue doesn't belong, cut it out. Then we have mistake number 12, fear of silence. Writers often feel the need to fill every moment with words. Silence can be more powerful. For example, did you know? He didn't answer. That pause is loaded with meaning. So now that we have seen what weak dialogue looks like, and more importantly, why it doesn't work, let's move into something practical. In the next session, I'll show you step by step how to take a weak dialogue and transform it into something sharp, layered, and emotionally alive. Oh, sorry. So let's get into the practical example. Just give me 1 minute so that I can open my doc and start typing so that you can see it. Okay, so I hope you guys are able to watch my screen. I am going to, yes, I was just checking my mic. Okay, I am now going to type so that you guys can see. I'm also going to be speaking. So let me know if you're not able to see something. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can watch. Okay, so now this is the part I really enjoy because this is where everything we've talked about so far finally comes together. Up until now, we've discussed what dialogue is, why it matters, what makes it good, how to write it, and how to format it, and what mistakes to avoid. But craft truly clicks when you see transformation happen. So, in this section, we are going to take weak or average dialogue and slowly, step by step, turn it into dialogue that feels sharper, more natural, emotionally layered, grounded, full of subtext, specific to character. I want you to watch how the dialogue changes, not just the final result. Let's talk about the first workshop example. Fixing on the nose dialogue. Let's start with one of the most common problems. Original on the nose dialogue is I'm angry because you lied to me and betrayed my trust. I've left space here so that you'll be able to see it. This is what I'm writing right now. I'm just gonna turn it into red color, or maybe maybe I'll just start sorry, reviewing so that it'll come in red color and you'll be able to see what I'm typing. Now, technically, this dialogue, I'm angry because you lied to me and betrayed my trust. This sentence is fine. Sorry, this sentence is fine. The emotion is clear, but it feels flat because it explains instead of expressing. Let's break it down. What is the emotion here? Anger, hurt, betrayal? Why might the character not say this directly? Because saying it out loud makes them feel vulnerable, because they want power, or maybe because they want the other person to feel guilty. So let's rewrite this with subtext. A simpler rewrite with less explanation will be, and this is going to be in an accusatory tone. You lied to me. This is better, but still very direct. Now, let's add subtext to this. You really thought I wouldn't find out? Question mark. You really thought I wouldn't find out? Now the betrayal is implied. There's accusation and there's tension. Now, let's revise it again and make it a bit more emotionally charged. So we'll add emotional edge here. You really thought I wouldn't find out because I really like it, so I'm going to take it. Maybe the character replies, I was trying to protect you. And our main, so you see, I'm changing paragraphs because the speaker is changing here. So our main character who said you really thought I wouldn't find out is again going to reply, and this is good. No, you were protecting yourself. Now, come here. Let's go to the original on the nose dialogue. I'm angry because you lied to me and betrayed my trust. Instead of this, we've revised it 3 times and we've come to this. You really thought I wouldn't find out. I was trying to protect you. No, you were protecting yourself. See, this is how the dialogue changes. Now, let's look at example number 2. Now, let's look at dialogue that floats. As I said, floaty dialogue. The original dialogue will be, I don't trust you. You should. This is vague and emotionally thin. Let's ground it. Okay, I'm just going to delete this space because I really want this one to come here so that you can see with the original one. Okay? I don't trust you. You should. What might the body be doing here? Okay, let's see. I don't trust you. The table. Touch it. I don't trust you. She slid her phone across the table. He didn't touch it. You should. See, now that single action, sliding the phone, implies evidence, accusation, tension, and power shift. No extra dialogue is needed here. So much difference in this and this. Let's look at tightening the dialogue. Example number 3. I just want you to understand why I made the decision I did and how difficult it was for me. Okay, I'll just make it a bit small so that you can read the full dialogue here. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Writers often overwrite dialogue because they're afraid of being misunderstood. Let's see what tightening does. Again, I'm going to read the original one. I just want you to understand why I made the decision I did and how difficult it was for me. Now ask yourself, what is the core emotion here? It is justification, defensiveness, right? So in the tightened version, we are going to bring out these two emotions. You think it was easy for me. This is only this one. It is shorter, it is sharper, and it is more emotional. Tightening almost always improves the dialogue. You think it was easy for me. It shows the emotion. See? Which this one does not because it explains, and we don't want wordy dialogues. We want snappy dialogues. Unless we really need wordy dialogues or the character is like that. Now, tightening almost always improves the dialogue. Let's look at the fourth example. This is one of the best exercises for understanding voice. Okay? A character arrives late. Now watch how voice changes everything. An apologetic character might say something like, I'm so sorry. No, I'm so sorry. Should we add an action beat here? Thinking no. Okay, let's just continue. Everything just went wrong. So this is a classic example of a fragmented dialogue because I'm so sorry, everything just went wrong. He's just kind of in a flow saying it, right? Because he's apologetic. Also, if we add trailing here, so it'll be, I'm so sorry, everything just went wrong. That would be a very sad slow person, right? So, if the person is in a situation where he's deeply sad or moved about something, then we'll be using trailing instead of this M dash. Okay? Now, just make sure if you want to add a space after M dash, you can add at both the places. If not, it actually looks very sharper with the space. So let's add space. But it's okay even if you don't. Now, a defensive character would say, I didn't ask you to wait. A sarcastic character would say, wow, you're early. Right? See, this is how this is whenever you're reading a book and you're chuckling, it's mostly because of the dialogue. Always pay attention. Next time, whenever you chuckle or laugh at something in a book, observe it might actually be dialogue or maybe an internal thought. If very rarely it's the narration that makes you laugh. Anyway, so if the character is quiet and guarded, as I said, slow, deeply moved or something, mostly slow. Actually, trailing always equates to slow. So you can add something like, did you need something? Okay, this is how we do it. We have the same situation, but we have four different people's dialogue. This is why dialogue must come from character and not plot, and not even the author. It should come only from the character. Let's look at a fifth example. Let's take neutral dialogue and then create conflict in it. Here's an example. We should leave. Okay. Right? Nothing happens here. Now, let's add conflicting goals. Let's keep the first dialogue as it is. We should leave. But the other character will reply with, why? Afraid someone might recognize you. I'm using UK English because that's what we usually do. Why? Afraid someone might recognize you. Now, there's implication, tension, and emotional history. Conflict doesn't need shouting, it needs a resistance. Look at how beautiful it is. See? This is how you add conflict. I also want to do one where we use silence as a dialogue. Silence is one of the most underused tools. We are almost 1.5 hours already in the workshop. Okay, we are just closing. I think another 2, 3 examples and then we'll be calling it a day. Okay, silence is one of the most underused tools. Look at this original dialogue. I don't know if I can forgive you. If we want to rewrite it with silence, what we are going to do is have the front person ask, can you forgive me? She looked at the window. Maybe I'm just kind of making it a little bit dramatic. She looked out the window. Can you? Can you forgive me? She looked out the window and released. Oh my, I'm just imagining the scene. I'm sorry. I do that because can't believe I'm doing it here. But this is how you write. When you're writing, you have to envision the scene. You have to be in the moment. You have to act it out. So start getting used to acting out your scenes. Can you? He prodded. See, this is also a bit unnecessary because it completely depends on whether you need to add it or not. But generally, if I would have been editing this scene, I would add it because, it kind of gives a little bit of grounding to the reader. Although technically, if we are going to make it extremely tight, you can remove it, but I do not like dialogues that are extremely tight unless they really have to. Sorry, unless I really have to. Now, let's look at example 7 quickly. Now, here this pause because she doesn't reply, right? So this is silence. Silence as a dialogue. That pause carries more weight than any explanation. Then next example. Let's look at pacing. Fast and tense version would be, did you do it? Yes. When? Tonight. This feels urgent. Now compare it to slow and emotional version. I thought I could live with it. He swallowed. Turns out I can't. Same emotional weight but different pacing. Dialogue rhythm shapes reader experiences. Now, so that was an example that I was giving you of wordy, slow, and fast-paced dialogue. Now, coming back to the document. Fixing info dump dialogue. The council has been corrupt for decades and they control everything. Um, in this, what we can do is the council hasn't changed in decades. They don't need to, they already own everything. They don't need to. Everything. Same information, but with a more natural delivery. And where that feels like a proclamation of by one person, this feels like an engaged conversation between two people. So you can see how this works, right? Now let's do a full scene so you can see how it sounds from start to finish with revised dialogues. Sorry. The original scene is, I'm sorry, he said. You should be, she replied. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. This is functional but flat. Let's rewrite this. I'm sorry. She didn't look at him. That's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. See, she prodded him to say, I didn't mean to hurt you. You never do. So instead of saying, but you did, we are saying, you never do. You never mean to hurt me. He stepped closer. Don't, she said. If you're staying, say something real. Now, this can be written in 1,000 other ways as well. But just to show you how this entire thing could be changed into a literal scene. I'm sorry, she didn't look at him. That's it. I didn't mean to hurt you. You never do. He stepped closer. Don't. If you're staying, say something real. See? Now we have subtext, power dynamics, emotional movement, and grounded action. This is dialogue doing real work. And this is how dialogue transforms, not through fancy words, but through intention, clarity, subtext, and revision. Once you start thinking this way, dialogue stops being intimidating and starts becoming one of the most enjoyable parts of writing. One second, let me just stop sharing this now so that we can just finish the session on a very strong note. So, we've covered a lot today. Before we rush off, I want us to pause for a moment and really absorb what we've done in the session. Because today wasn't just about learning how to write dialogue, it was about changing the way you think about dialogue. We started by understanding what dialogue truly is and what it isn't. We learned that dialogue is not casual conversation, not filler, not explanation, and not a transcript of real speech. Dialogue is revelation, action, strategy, and character on display. Then we looked at why dialogue matters, how it controls pacing, reveals character, builds relationships, carries subtext, delivers emotion, and makes scenes feel alive and cinematic. Then we explored the qualities of good dialogue: purpose, clarity, voice, subtext, rhythm, and conflict. We broke down how to write great dialogue step by step, starting with character, intention, shaping voice, using subtext, controlling pacing, trusting the reader, and revising with precision. We went into Then we went into formatting, style, and technicals, the professional rules that make your writing clean, readable, and editor ready. Then we examined the most common dialogue mistakes, so you know what exactly how to avoid. And then finally, we did the work together, transforming weak, transforming weak dialogue into sharp, emotionally layered, living scene. That's the full craft arc. Yes, Kadu. If there's one thing I want you to remember from today, it's this. Dialogue is not about what characters say, it's about what they want, what they fear, and what they're trying not to reveal. Once you understand that, dialogue stops being intimidating and it becomes playful, strategic, powerful, and extremely interesting. And most importantly, it becomes yours. I want to say this very clearly. If dialogue feels hard for you right now, it does not mean you're bad at writing. Dialogue is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with awareness, practice, and revision. Most great dialogue is written in the second or the third draft, not the first draft. So get it out of your head that you're going to be writing like great writers in the first go itself. So be kind to yourself in the drafting phase. Give yourself permission to write messy dialogue first. You know now how to sharpen it, so revise it accordingly. Here's what I want you to do next. It is something very practical. Go back to a scene you've already written, highlight only the dialogue, read it out loud. Ask yourself, is every line purposeful? Does each character sound distinct? Is there subtext or am I explaining too much? And does something change by the end of the scene? You will be surprised how quickly your dialogue improves once you read it this way. Before you go, don't forget that I'll be sharing the free downloadable of the dialogue workbook from the session or the accompanying document for the session by Monday. I will also be uploading the last two workbooks by Monday. So I will be leaving the links here. I actually have to go back and update the descriptions of all the videos, live videos, and I'll be adding the timestamps as well to make it easier for you to go back and revisit the sections that you really want to go through again. In our next session, We'll be talking about, actually, I'm not even sure what the next session is about. If I'm not, the next session is about show, don't tell. How to show, not tell. So we'll be talking about show and tell, and it is going to be amazing because there is so much confusion regarding showing and telling. Sorry. If you want to learn more about show and tell, then do follow my WhatsApp group because I keep on posting there the updates regularly. If not, just hang out on my YouTube channel and press on the bell icon so that you'll be notified when I'll be going live next. It is going to be on the coming Saturday at 11 a.m. This I'm not going to be delaying it because I do have some time in the week to prepare for the session. So it is going to be on time at 11 next Saturday. Uh, Again, I would just like to say dialogue is where your stories breathe. It's where characters stop being ideas and start being real people. So trust your characters, listen to them, let them argue, evade, confess, and stay silent. And remember, you don't need perfect dialogue. What you need is honest and intentional dialogue. That's what readers respond to. Thank you for spending this time with me today, for learning with me, and for taking your writing so seriously. I'll see you all in the next live. Until then, keep writing, keep listening, and let your characters speak. Thank you so much.